NPR has concluded an analysis that has shown that the federal government is selling homes to unsuspecting buyers that are very much at risk of flooding, which can be devastating, especially if you just purchased a home. This NPR investigation finds that the homes that HUD sells, is the Housing and Urban Development Department, they're disproportionately located in flood-prone places compared with Zillow records of all homes sold in the US. The agency does not fully disclose the potential costs and dangers of living at risk of flooding. And some of these transactions have happened as local governments are buying out properties in the same area to mitigate flood risk. So some of the local governments are literally buying property to stop people from living there because it's so dangerous and risky to do so, while the federal government is trying to get people to move into those areas. But when we say that it's disproportionate, it's not slightly more disproportionate. Between 2017 and 2020, HUD sold nearly 100,000 homes around the country. Homes that were sold by HUD between January 2017 and August of last year are in federally designated flood zones at almost 75 times the rate of all homes sold nationwide in that period, which almost seems as if you couldn't reach those numbers unless that's the only thing you were trying to do. I'm not saying it's that bad, but the effect is that bad. When you don't tell people, or you tell them about the flood risk so late in the process that they've already done their down payment, they've already gone through the whole process, they're mentally and emotionally invested, knowing that they could be ruined if the house ends up getting flooded, as it is likely to do in these areas. What do you think, Nina?
Yeah, that's right, John, and shout out to NPR for the wonderful story, shedding light on this. And it's important to know that this conundrum did not start just with the current administration, but the current administration can do something to fix it. It has been going on for a long time, unfortunately. It also appears that the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing in terms of state and local governments not knowing that while they are trying to prevent people from buying such properties, the federal government through HUD is I won't say incentivizing, but pushing people to buy said properties. And poorer people who are more likely than not to be the ones, or the working poor, working people to buy these homes are the ones who have the greatest risk, because number one, flood insurance is very, very expensive. And number two, as you just pointed out, John, a lot of them don't know of the enormous risk before they have signed on the dotted line. So that should not be happening. And so we do need more coordination across governments, and as both local, regional, state, and federal, all governments should be involved in this. And also to make sure the federal departments are communicating. For example, FEMA, for example, and HUD should have a very, very close relationship when it comes to flood zone.
Exactly. Totally. And just think about the damage that can be done to you financially. It's going to be more difficult to eventually sell the home if that's what you're trying. And all of this is happening not just in like a great time to be a home buyer in the United States. It's devastating in a million other ways that we talk about. So people are desperate. And so if the home is in a flood area, maybe it's a bit cheaper. We need to be protecting people from potentially not just destroying their own finances, but the finances of future generations. You can wipe out all your wealth as a result of this. There's health consequences as well. And it's a reminder, by the way, that departments like HUD and transportation, sometimes they just throw people in there who don't necessarily know about this stuff, but it is critically important for hundreds of thousands, for millions of people, that these departments are well staffed by experts who understand and will engage with the actual issues under their purview. And this has been going on for years. I don't see any data here from before January 2017, but I have a hard time believing it started in January 2017. So while this was going on under Donald Trump, I don't see any reason to believe that it began under Donald Trump. But perhaps it can end under President Biden if people put pressure on the administration.
That is the promise and the problem, John. That is exactly it, and it should end. And let's talk about the effects that people have that you can't replace, pictures and other family heirlooms, that if those things are destroyed in flood, they'll never get those things back. And your point about wealth, most Americans build their wealth through home ownership. And if they have offspring, they will pass that on to the next generation. That is it. So your biggest investment is also your biggest debt. And it is absolutely devastating. So no one should be preying on people in desperate situations, especially the federal government. So let's go and get this together. Promising the problem, John. They can fix this right now. Let's do it.
100%. Before we close things out, I am going to give you a bit of homework. First of all, you'll encourage NPR to do more analyses like this by going to NPR and reading the details. There's a lot more information that we weren't able to get to. And then also, I vaguely remembered, so I Googled it. Back in 2017, John Oliver had a great episode on flooding and flood insurance and the damage it can do to homes, how it wipes out generational wealth and all that. So go back and watch that too. It's a serious issue we need to understand, among all the other things. I know some people think that as the oceans rise, you can just sell the home. That's what Ben Shapiro says. That's not actually how it works out in practice.
Ben.
Ben being Ben.
Yeah.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.